quantum physics and ancient religions. Two worlds we often imagine locked in eternal conflict. Yet what if they are not only compatible, but deeply intertwined? Imagine discovering that the mystifying findings in CERN's particle accelerators bear an eerie resemblance to the teachings of age-old spiritual texts. The idea might sound outrageous, but it has captivated brilliant minds across history. Some even claim that the wisdom of ancient mystics anticipated the baffling behavior of quantum particles by thousands of years. Are we on the brink of unearthing a hidden blueprint spanning across centuries of human insight? Picture the moment we realized particles can behave like waves, existing in multiple states until actively observed. Thousands of years before such sophisticated experiments, certain spiritual traditions hinted that the physical world is shaped by consciousness. Today, modern quantum studies and venerable philosophical systems seem to echo the very same concept. Quantum entanglement suggests that once particles connect, they remain linked across vast distances, faster than any signal can travel. Meanwhile, analogies in spiritual texts describe souls, minds, or energies as ultimately unified, bound together beyond the reach of everyday senses. Before dismissing these parallels as coincidences, pause and consider. Could a wellspring of ancient meditative practice or mystical insight have grasped the nature of reality in ways modern science is only beginning to verify? Our first step is to dive headfirst into the swirl of mind-bending possibilities, letting curiosity guide us past the boundaries of conventional knowledge. Ready? The deeper we go, the more astonishing the connections become. Even among believers in the power of quantum phenomena, doubts persist. How could pre-literate shamans or reclusive monks possibly anticipate something so breathtakingly modern as quantum mechanics? Is it plausible that ancient wisdom keepers perceived hints of the subatomic realm without the advantage of telescopes, particle colliders, and advanced mathematics? Consider how quantum mechanics stuns us by defying the classical notion of objective reality in many spiritual teachings. Reality is called an illusion, Maya in Hinduism, for instance, suggesting the common perception of the material world is incomplete or illusory. Thousands of years ago, philosophers in India, China, and beyond posited a vast unified essence weaving through all that exists. Similarly, quantum physics has confirmed that matter is mostly empty space, structured by energy fields that we scarcely understand. The notion that everything is intimately connected resonates strongly with the concept of entanglement, where two particles remain bonded no matter how far they are separated. Yet doubts linger. Are these similarities little more than poetic metaphors? Or do they highlight a deeper truth expressing itself through different languages, religious myth, and scientific analysis? The more we dig, the more it seems these parallels could be more than mere coincidences. Perhaps we're glimpsing an underlying tapestry that has been described in cryptic spiritual terms and systematically explored in quantum labs. The key is to keep digging, to open our minds to stepping outside the strict boundaries of either faith or science alone, and peer into the underlying foundation that potentially unites them both. Quantum mechanics is notorious for fracturing the bedrock of common sense. Particles existing in two places at once, distant objects affecting each other instantaneously, and observation altering reality. Our rational minds cry out that such things should not be possible, yet experiments repeatedly confirm these phenomena. In a way, certain spiritual insights also shatter everyday logic. Saints and seers speak of transcending space and time, merging with a cosmic source, or experiencing universal oneness that defies rational explanation. Throughout history, many mystics, from Christian monks to Sufi dervishes, describe moments of intense spiritual communion that could be seen as glimpses of a unified field. In these accounts, consciousness fuses with something bigger than itself. Likewise, quantum mechanics demonstrates that each event is woven into a web of probability, entangled with all else. The rigorous data from labs might stand on one side, while allegorical teachings of mystics stand on the other, but their underlying messages vibrate with a shared frequency of connectedness. This challenges us to break free from limiting paradigms. Could it be that religion wasn't always about dogma or moral codes alone, but also about an attempt to articulate metaphysical truths that quantum physicists now decode with mathematics? Perhaps ancient spiritual practices, from chanting and meditation to sacred dances, facilitated states of heightened awareness that gleaned fleeting insights into the quantum realm. The collision between purely rational thinking and these extraordinary claims drives us to question, are we missing a more profound tapestry of reality? The puzzle grows stranger with each new discovery. There is something profoundly moving about the possibility that our most advanced science shares a hidden resonance with teachings from the ancients. Sometimes, we connect to those teachings through emotion rather than intellect. It's one thing to grasp wave-particle duality as an abstract concept. It's another to feel that everything in existence pulses as one interconnected heartbeat. Religious traditions often speak to the heart through poetry, parables, hymns, and rituals, aiming to anchor these cosmic truths in human experience. Think of the intangible spark we feel when gazing at the stars, a sudden rush that we are part of something vast and mysterious. Quantum physics, for all its math and precision, can evoke the same awe. That mix of wonder and humility arises when we learn that a single, fundamental particle might exist in multiple states until we observe it, as though it dances with possibility in a cosmic waltz. The emotional weight of these revelations invites us to see quantum experiments as not just sterile data, but portals into the nature of existence itself. Similarly, early mystics, often described as visionaries, weren't content to remain in the intellectual realm. Their revelations came wrapped in feelings of ecstasy, union, or transcendence. So yes, across cultures and eras, from biblical prophets to Zen masters, there is a recurring insistence everything is connected. This theme resonates with a deep emotional truth in many of us, awakening a longing to belong to something immense and unfathomable. Science calls it entanglement, religion calls it oneness, but both might be pointing to the same universal chord that resonates within the human spirit. To solidify our understanding, let's outline some core quantum ideas. First up, superposition. The principle that a particle, such as an electron, exists in all possible states simultaneously until measured. Then, there is entanglement, the mysterious bond allowing two particles to remain connected so that whatever happens to one instantly influences the other, regardless of distance. The observer effect, the notion that the very act of observing can collapse a particle's wave of potential states into one definite outcome. These core ideas defy the standard rules of classical physics, perplexing scientists for generations. Now, place these scientific breakthroughs side by side with mystical or religious concepts. Maya in Hinduism states, reality is not as solid as it appears. Quantum mechanics shows physical matter is mostly empty and ambiguous. Brahman, the ultimate reality underlying all phenomena, resonates with the notion of a vast quantum field from which everything emerges. Entanglement stirs recollections of Indra's net, a Buddhist or Hindu metaphor for infinite interconnection. Meanwhile, in Christian mysticism, references to transcending ordinary perception might parallel the concept of multiple states existing beyond what we can normally sense. As we absorb these parallels, momentum builds toward the big question: how did the ancients intuit these truths? Could they have accessed these insights through rigorous mental chatter and reveal a deeper reality, which might quiet mental chatter and reveal a deeper reality? Or is it chance that spiritual metaphors align so strongly with quantum principles? Persisting with our exploration, we come closer to bridging the worlds of science and spirituality. The engine is warming up. Let's keep the momentum going. It's time to widen our lens to consider how entire cultures, especially those from the Eastern world, framed reality in ways that resonate with quantum insights. In Hindu thought, the Brahman is not just a deity, but rather the cosmic principle that permeates all existence. Sound familiar? Modern physics suggests the universe is upheld by interconnected fields, electromagnetic, gravitational, and even the elusive Higgs field. Could the saints and sages of the past be describing, through mythic language, what science approaches with equations? The teachings of Buddhism introduce us to shunyata, emptiness or void. This is not nothingness, but a dynamic, fertile ground of potential. Quantum theory's vacuum isn't just empty space. It churns with fields and virtual particles popping in and out of existence. The emptiness described in Eastern philosophy resonates with the perpetual swirl of possibilities in the quantum vacuum. Add Indra's net, the cosmic web of interconnected jewels reflecting each other infinitely, and it begins to mirror the concept of universal entanglement. But is this a case of seeing patterns where none exist? Or is it evidence that ancient mystical practice and modern science converge on similar visions of reality? Some might argue ancient texts contain metaphors rather than factual science. However, these metaphors are astonishingly aligned with the bizarre truths of subatomic physics. If it is only a metaphor, it is a strikingly apt one. This makes us wonder, did the ancients peek behind the veil of their own minds to glimpse the underpinnings of existence? We edge closer to an answer with every layer we peel back. Contrary to popular belief, parallels aren't restricted to Eastern traditions. Within Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, certain mystical teachings also echo quantum themes. In Kabbalah, mystics speak of Ein Sof, the boundless or endless, akin to a formless source from which creation emanates. That notion bears similarities to a cosmic field of pure potential. The divine word in the book of Genesis, bringing forth all existence, might be likened to the wave function that collapses into tangible reality. And in Islamic Sufism, the concept of wadat al-wujud describes the unity of all being. Such parallels become more remarkable when we realize they were formulated centuries before electrons or quarks were even imagined. Within Christian mysticism, the body of Christ is sometimes conceptualized as encompassing all of reality, suggesting a fundamental oneness unifying creation. If we set dogma and literal interpretations aside and interpret these wonders through the lens of science, we encounter a narrative of unity, oneness, and underlying fields that bind everything. As we see, the evidence for these cross-cultural synchronicities continues to accumulate. Are these mystical truths best understood as poetic attempts to describe ineffable experiences? Or are they partial glimpses of the same deep reality that quantum mechanics attempts to measure? This question fuels our momentum, propelling us to look deeper. For if religious insight and quantum science are two vantage points on the same phenomenon, then bridging them might unlock a level of understanding that neither approach could fully reveal on its own. This synergy beckons us forward with irresistible force. One might assume that quantum parallels are found mainly in large, well-documented religious systems. Yet many indigenous cosmologies around the world also highlight realities that resonate with quantum ideas. For instance, certain Native American traditions teach that all of nature, including rocks and rivers, brims with living spirit, reflecting a continuous exchange of energy. This perspective is not unlike the quantum view of a dynamic field permeating every corner of existence. In African traditional beliefs, a single life force or vital energy flows through people, animals, and the environment, echoing the concept that everything arises from a coherently organized field. Indigenous Australian Dreamtime stories describe a reality behind the physical world, forming patterns that manifest the landscape and living beings. Such descriptions parallel quantum fields that mediate the very fabric of space. These parallels suggest that a sense of unity and interdependence may be a universal human intuition, deeply embedded in the mythic and spiritual traditions across cultures. It's easy to dismiss these tales as folklore, yet, the more we begin to appreciate how complex and sophisticated quantum mechanics is, the more we realize that any world view, acknowledging a fundamentally intertwined cosmos, might carry deep truths. Indigenous rites and ceremonies often revolve around harmonizing with these unseen realms, a notion reminiscent of how quantum experimentation requires precise alignment of conditions to measure intangible phenomena. Are these ancient voices also whispering of the same universal underlying reality that scientists are only now starting to quantify? The question compels us to proceed with both humility and curiosity. Sometimes we stand on the cusp of two domains, science and spirituality, longing to reconcile them but unsure how. The complexity of quantum math can feel overwhelming, while spiritual scriptures can seem impenetrable and archaic. Yet deep inside, there might be a yearning to see the world through a unified lens. Whether you are drawn to the laboratory or the temple, there is a shared desire to understand the profound mysteries of existence. In bridging these states, we encounter emotional turbulence. If certain spiritual concepts align with quantum mechanics, does that validate ancient religion, or simply reveal that religion was metaphorically gesturing toward truths science is only now deciphering? The question can stir both excitement and unease. People have long wrestled with the fear that rationality undermines faith, or that faith resists progress. Yet, the emotional anchor emerges when we realize that science and spirituality might be complementary languages for describing the same intangible dimension. Imagine the relief and exultation in realizing that a cold, clinical discipline like quantum physics can evoke wonder and awe in the same manner as sacred chants or meditative insights. It suggests that wisdom is neither confined to the revered texts nor the peer-reviewed journals. Rather, it flows in rivulets from both sources, merging into a single, vast river of human understanding. The emotional magnitude of this possibility resonates deeply, giving us courage to gaze upon contradictions and see them not as irreconcilable differences, but as puzzle pieces of a larger, more wondrous mosaic. Collisions have a shock value, whether they happen in a particle accelerator or between conflicting ideologies. But collisions can also be generative. When quantum physics meets ancient religion, we witness a jarring clash of terminologies and frameworks. Talk of wave functions rubs against talk of divine presence. Intangible fields mingle with theological concepts like the Holy Spirit or primordial energy. For some, these collisions produce immediate excitement, the rush of discovering cosmic secrets. For others, they stir skepticism or even alarm. Yet the abruptness of such an encounter can spur innovative thinking. Could the word in Abrahamic texts be akin to the wave function that collapses possibility into reality? Could the Tao in Taoism reflect the underlying quantum flow through which the manifest world emerges? Suddenly, these ancient or mythic images might become newly relevant, reinterpreted through the lens of modern science. Or, from another perspective, quantum mechanics becomes less alien when we see how deeply it resonates with age-old attempts to articulate a unified cosmos. The friction arises when literalists on both sides resist the possibility of overlap. Strict dogmatists may dread that connecting quantum physics to spiritual beliefs trivializes sacred teachings, while hardcore rationalists might recoil from suggestions that intuitive, symbolic systems hold legitimate. Nonetheless, collisions can illuminate. They break patterns of complacency, forcing us to reevaluate assumptions. We might discover that advanced mathematics and age-old spiritual visions are both reflections of the same awe-inspiring hidden dimension. That fracture in old ways of thinking invites us to embrace new, interdisciplinary perspectives on reality. What arises when we try to systematically meld these frameworks? Modern scientists often emphasize repeatable experiments and peer-reviewed data. Ancient spiritual traditions, by contrast, rely on deeply subjective experiences, coded in metaphor and altered states of consciousness. Yet, the friction between these modes of knowledge could be an invitation to synergy rather than conflict. Perhaps rigorous experimentation can bring clarity about phenomena that mystics have described in obscure language. Meanwhile, introspective practices might expand our scientific worldview by highlighting aspects of consciousness that cannot be fully probed by external instruments. Some researchers already sit at this crossroads, investigating how meditation might affect the physical structure of the brain, or exploring whether group intentions can yield statistically significant anomalies in random number generators. Although these experiments are controversial and prone to debate, they hint at a path forward. By systematically studying the interplay of consciousness and the external world, we might find that the illusions scattered through ancient scriptures actually encode real, testable principles. This isn't to say that quantum physics proves an established religion right in every detail, or that any particular dogma can be enforced through scientific findings. Rather, it is an emerging realization that the boundaries between what we call scientific truth and spiritual truth might be more permeable than we thought. In bridging these domains, we tease closer to a resolution. A single vantage point of wide vision can unify mathematics, meditation, logic, and faith, revealing a cosmos more wondrous than either tradition alone could have imagined. Mind-bending knowledge can either shake our convictions or inspire a bold leap into the unknown. We have examined how quantum concepts, superposition, entanglement, and the observer effect resonate with elements of ancient wisdom found in Hinduism, Buddhism, the Abrahamic traditions, indigenous belief systems, and beyond. We have traced lines of unity beneath seeming contradictions, glimpsing how the ancients may have captured truths that today's scientists confirm in their labs. Does this mean every spiritual text is a blueprint for quantum physics? Not exactly, but it does suggest that we disregard such parallels at our own peril. Now, the challenge shifts to you. How do you integrate these revelations into your worldview? Do you see them as superficial metaphors, or as indicators that consciousness wields more power over reality than we typically admit? Perhaps there is room for both awe and skepticism, for questioning and embracing. The more open we remain, the more likely we can discover universal patterns bridging science and spirituality, patterns that speak to our deepest questions about existence and purpose. So, let this conversation spark your own exploration. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which parallels surprised you the most? Do these connections resonate with your personal experiences or beliefs? And, crucially, what new frontiers might await as quantum research marches forward, hand in hand with forgotten spiritual insights? Subscribe, like, and keep your mind sharp for the next mystery that rattles the foundations of certainty. Our quest is just beginning, and it calls each of us to join the cosmic dance, bridging quantum physics and ancient religions in the ultimate search for truth.